Kunitsu-gami, Path of the Goddess. This game surprised me because I didn't know a thing about it before playing it. I only heard it was good, and I watched like half of a trailer in which it looks like your run-of-the-mill hack and slash, which it is to a certain point. I describe this game as a tower defense game. How it works is that you go with your friend, I guess she's the goddess. Also, the game either leaves a lot to the imagination, or I'm just dumb, or all of the above, because there is no dialogue in the game. So the only thing that you know is that your companion is sick or cursed, and as we head down the mountain, maybe we'll find a cure or an uncurser, healer, shaman. Anyways, at the beginning, every non-boss stage you start carving a path for the goddess to go from one end of the village to the other. In the meantime, while she slowly walks, you loot the village for orbs that work as currency for carving the path and assigning roles to villagers for when the night comes. When it starts to get dark, you try to place your troops in as good as a position as you can manage, because when the sun sets from the torii gates in the village, monsters start pouring out and they're headed towards the goddess, so you hack and slash your way through them until dawn. Once you finish the stage, the village gets liberated, and now you can send the villagers to work on renovations that give various goodies as rewards, both for gameplay and also cosmetic. By the way, I love when a game has a model viewer. I think that it really shows how developers are proud of what they've created, and when they let you inspect their creations up close to the last detail. In the village, you can also buy some upgrades for yourself and the villager roles. When fully upgrading a role, they get a very overpowered attack or boost. After going to the other villages to liberate them, you eventually get to a boss fight where it's pretty much the same thing, but there is no path. Just a static encounter. The bosses are very varied and creative. The entire game is very varied and creative. I recommend you play it. It's a very entertaining game with a not very common gameplay loop. With that being said, I give it a traffic control agent out of 10. Half-Life Alyx. About 10 years ago, I tried to play Half-Life, emphasis on tried, because I could only play for about 10 minutes before it made me feel like I had to turn inside out. So I didn't get really far on that one. Fast forward 10 years, and I found an even more nauseating way of playing the series. The Half-Life series has always been remembered for their innovation in technology, like the implementation of physics as a gameplay mechanic. It only seemed logical that for when a new technology is available, Valve would take advantage of it. If Alyx is the first VR game you play, well, first of all, I hope you don't play on carpet. And second of all, I can only imagine this is the way that kids from the 90s felt when going from 2D to 3D games. This wasn't my first full immersion VR game, so this review will be a bit less praise heavy for things that should be, and mostly are, standard on the majority of VR games, like being able to pick up and interact with pretty much anything. Plus, add to that this is my introduction to the Half-Life series, and no spoilers here, but there are spoilers for other games in this game, which is a prequel. Let's start with some praise. At the very beginning of the game, you are in some rooftops, and when you get to a balcony, you hear this loud bang and see a giant robot thing that looks like an athletic AT-AT. And the sheer size of this thing and the noise it makes as it moves legitimately scared me. The whole game is like that. In ambience, I mean. There is not a part of the game where you don't feel like you're in a real place. Everything is where it should be. Puzzles are solved in creative ways. Speaking of which, let's talk a bit more about how you'll be interacting with the world around you. At the start of the game, you only have your hands. After advancing a bit more and leaving behind the obligatory draw section that is in every VR game, you get a pistol and your gravity gloves. This will be what you'll use the most, from grabbing grenades that were thrown at you in midair and returning to sender, to just grabbing a random thing off of the floor instead of bending down, because ain't nobody got time for that. In combat, you'll be going mostly against zombie things with facehuggers, and the Combine, which are humanoid enemies with guns, and the heavies even have shields. You'll engage them with guns of your own, starting off with your pistol. After that, you get a shotgun, and last but definitely not least, a submachine gun. The guns that you have are pretty bad at the beginning, but as you progress, you'll come across these radioactive Oreo cookies that are the currency that you'll use when you come across an upgrade bench, where you will improve your guns for better accuracy, expanded magazines, and other cool things. Along with the mechanical upgrade, they'll also look way cooler once upgraded. It's really cool to me that in VR games, when upgrading guns, unlike 2D games where an upgrade could be the gun will be X% more accurate, in VR, the upgrade literally gives you an attachment that makes it easier to hit your target, for example with a reticle or a laser sight. Now, for the story, you're Alyx and you get captured by the bad guys along with your dad. With help of your buddy Russell, you try to get to this big spaceship thing where you believe a weapon is being developed, and you can't allow that to happen. As the game progresses, you traverse pretty much the whole neighborhood to get to the gun. You find your dad, you let your dad die. Never mind. And as you progress, you find out more about the gun. Now, some slight spoilers. I won't tell you anything that happens in the game, but there is something that they did in a part where you see the future and are presented with an option to change the future. That seemed really out of place to me, especially how it's presented. Plus, you don't get a choice in the matter, it just happens regardless. The reason it seemed out of place to me is that if what happens in this game continues in future installments, it would be like an alternate reality or another universe. And I didn't know that was part of the Half-Life series. Guess that's what I get for playing a VR spin-off of a 27-year-old series as my first game. With all that being said, I give this game a Morgan Freeman out of 10. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. It's not that black. I was expecting the blackening or something like that. Anyways, this is the first Ninja Gaiden that I've ever played. A famous franchise from way back when, coming out in the early 2000s, that has a gameplay style that you don't see that much of anymore. The original God of War, Dante's Inferno, and some Devil May Cry mixed in is what you can expect from this game. It is also known for its difficulty, but for me the hardest part was being able to see. Not only when you have big enemies all around you and you can't even see where you are, but when you have humanoid enemies that are also ninjas, dressed like ninjas. Like, tell me, in this clip, do you immediately know who you are? I wanted to play an action game, not Where's Waldo. Anyways, I don't think this would be a game that I'd like to try on its hardest difficulty. It needs more polish for me to attempt that. If you didn't know, this is a remaster of, well, I don't know. What I'm about to say is a very superficial information because I just didn't bother in researching this. But there are two games. One is Ninja Gaiden 2, released in 2008, and Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, released in 2009. The differences are similar to Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. In both cases, there are people that say that the first one is better, others swear by the other version. Both are wrong. Both versions are not great. With that out of the way, this is a fresh coat of paint on a game that screams 2008. From its dialogue, gameplay, and story. What a typical mission in Ninja Gaiden 2 Black looks like is you drop into a random part of the world for no reason whatsoever and fight very different types of enemies. Dragon things, lions, other ninjas of course, and also the puppies of Sith. Defeating enemies gives you orbs for upgrading, buying stuff, and for special attacks. Along the way, you might find an upgrading station for your weapons, and you could also buy health items. You continue on your way through the level and fight a boss who you might find later on as a mini boss, and you'll take them on with your weapon of choice, of which there are many. My weapon of choice was this long spear thing because it gives you some crowd control, which you'll need because enemies will be coming at you from every direction all the time. That's the gameplay. Now the story, it's not that complicated. At the beginning, a chick gets captured and you go rescue her. After that, the same chick that captured the other chick steals something from your home and you try to go and get it back. On your way, you fight many things for reasons. I guess you fight the creator of fire twice, a lightning boy, a lion at the Colosseum. All these dudes are introduced in the same chapter they die. I've never felt more like Thanos in a game. At certain times throughout your playthrough, the main story is interrupted by side chapters where you'll play as fan service, and Psylocke is there too. I have no idea how their stories are relevant to the plot because I didn't finish the game. Not because it was too difficult or I got bored. I was very much looking forward to finishing it, but for some reason the game just decided that it didn't want to open anymore. I even uninstalled it and downloaded it again to no avail. It did work on my Xbox, so maybe I'll finish it there. Or maybe I'll finish it here. Anyways, I give this game a cliffhanger out of 10. Super Hot VR. If you aren't familiar with the flat screen version of Super Hot, how it works is that you're in a room with red crystal guys reenacting the John Wick films. But the world only moves when you move, which in VR can be a bit awkward sometimes when you have to salsa dance in order for the time to pass by. This game is simple, unadulterated fun. You'll be in a pure white environment a la Mirror's Edge, where the things that you can interact with are black, and you need to get rid of the red crystal dudes. You'll be throwing stuff, shooting guys, run out of bullets, throw the gun, and grab from the air the gun that they were using against you, which also works as a shield. Short and sweet with everything that you need. I give this Matrix Simulator a whoa out of 10. Sniper Elite Resistance. There are deceptive tactics that the corporations employ in order to keep you subscribed to their services. Like you're watching a series that has a 10-episode season and they're released weekly, so you have to subscribe for 3 months. How do you do that with video games? You release them broken. Sniper Elite Resistance is like the 5th entry in the franchise, where you shoot people and watch the shot in slow motion. You know the drill. I knew what I was getting into when I started this game. What I didn't know is that after at least 4 entries in a game franchise, with minimum variation in between entries, they still wouldn't know how to optimize their game for release. For me, the game was running on 150 plus FPS, but when you enter the next race scene, the game went down to 4 FPS. Man, if this was an EA game, they'd call that cinematic mode and very ethical. I give this game a not even worth a Game Pass free trial out of 10.